Sensory processing is just another way of saying understanding our world around us. All of our senses are designed to help us be able to feel, touch, taste, smell the world around us so that we understand it better. But unfortunately, there are times when this sensory processing goes wrong. So we can have amplifications, heightened sensitivity or lowered sensitivity to those normal senses that we should have. And so to one person, they might feel just normal senses. They might see normally, they might hear normally, they might touch normally. But to another person, the light's too bright and the sound is too loud and the touch is just too much for them to handle. We often call that a sensory processing disorder, of which there's plenty of names for. But the point is that there is a misinterpretation of the world around them by the time it gets interpreted to the brain. So the question isn't what is the condition called, the question has to be what is the cause? What is the cause of this heightened sensitivity in this sensory processing? If we start to understand and start to dig a little bit deeper, we can start to evaluate what could interfere with that interpretation of those senses. One of the main things that has to happen is all of our senses, sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell, all of our senses have to be interpreted by our brain. So they have to go from the parts in which we felt that sense or brought in that sense, and then it has to get interpreted in the brain. So it has to go through the nerves on its way to the brain. And there can be things that obstruct or interfere with those signals and can change the signal along the way. It's like turning up the volume. One of the main areas that can happen, one of the main mechanical areas, is actually in the upper neck. You know, sensory processing is a hot topic with kids, but kids play rough, and one of the things that happen, they take a lot of falls and spills off bikes and trees, and so we don't think much of it, but sometimes it can actually lead to a misalignment in the upper neck and heighten that sensitivity. Some of these things can even happen during the birth process, where as the baby's being pulled out, in a lot of cases, you know, the doctors might be twisting and bending the neck. It can misalign the neck of that child, and even from birth, they can be left with a heightened sensitivity or even a numbness to some of their senses. And so what upper cervical chiropractors do is they dive in and we're evaluating to see where is the interference. Why is it that the sensitivity of this person is not normal? Can we find the root cause? And we're going to ask those questions and do evaluation. And one of the main areas that we do find it is where we're looking, but it's also one of the areas that's most logical for this to happen is in the upper neck. You see, the upper neck is the most sensitive area in the spine. It's the most vulnerable area in the spine. And so when we take falls and hits to the head or run into something, the upper neck is usually the one place that gets interfered with the most. So upper cervical doctors will evaluate the upper cervical spine to see if there's any misalignment in the upper neck that's causing interference in the signals between the body and the brain, which can either amplify it or diminish it. It doesn't matter. It can go either way. But what we're trying to do is correct the alignment so that we're removing that interference, which gives normal sensitivity back to the child or the adult. It doesn't really matter, but it restores normal sensitivity so that the world around you is interpreted correctly. And it becomes much easier to handle when you feel the world right. So I highly recommend, if somebody's having trouble with that sensory integration or the sensory processing, that it is an essential step to get checked by an upper cervical chiropractor and see if there's any interference with the upper neck. The Upper Cervical Centers is located in both St. Petersburg and Brandon in the Tampa Bay area. We'd love to talk to you to see if you're a candidate for care. But definitely, if somebody has that level of sensitivity, heightened sensitivity or numbness to the senses that they should normally have, they should get checked to see if their upper cervical spine is misaligned.